I thought I had the worst roommate ever, until I heard this story. You won't believe what this guy did. Edit. Since I had enough questions, I thought I should go ahead and fill in the details. TLDR at the bottom. Back in 2009, I had a roommate I am going to call Kate. She is a nurse at plastic surgeon's office. She had several issues and was a very convincing pathological liar. I knew this, but we had lived for about a year and got along well enough. I just knew not to believe her most of the time. Anyway, one night I was watching Lost when she came out of her bedroom and said she was going to the store to meet a guy. She was wearing jeans and a hoodie. I was watching TV and didn't think much about it. I just said be careful and let it go. I ended up going to bed around midnight, and she hadn't returned home yet. I just assumed she had hooked up with that guy. Not her normal thing, but not unheard of. Just after I turned off the light, there was a knock on my door. I got up thinking Kate had just lost her keys or something. I went downstairs in just my boxers and t-shirt, and when I opened the door, there were 2 uniformed police officers standing there. Then the question started. Cop, who are you? Me. I am Astelin 101. I own this place. Cop, Kate told us she owned this place and didn't live with anyone. Is that your cat? Me. I bought his place in 2006 and have owned that cat since 2004. What is going on? Cop, Kate was attacked tonight and she is at the hospital. Me, oh shit. Is she okay? Cop, can we come in? Me. Yeah. Come in. Nowadays, I probably wouldn't agree without a search warrant, but things were different around here back then. They came in and asked where her bedroom was. I pointed it out, and one of them went in while the other stayed in the living room with me. The first cop came out of her room and went into her bathroom and was poking around. After they had been there for about half an hour, they finally started telling me what was happening. Kate told them that someone had attacked her and sliced open her stomach, and then dumped her at the emergency room. After being questioned a bit, she had claimed her date attacked her and had dumped her at the door, but wouldn't tell them who. At this point, there were a total of 6 cops in my condo, going in and out of her room, and I was still in my boxers. I asked if I could go upstairs and put on some pants. They agreed, but one of them had to go with me. While up there, he checked my tub, sink, towels, and dirty laundry to see if there was any blood. After getting dressed and heading downstairs, I realized I had acquired 2 more cops and a detective. She told me the story had changed, and now Kate was claiming it was a med student from the local university that was trying to become a doctor. He was trying to remove a large scar that went the entire way across her stomach. He had hit something and then left her at the hospital. She talked to her partner, and now it was she drove herself. The hospital was having fits because they thought a student was practicing surgery. Also at this point, they are carrying stuff out of her room in paper bags. 14 cops and 2 detectives in my condo. And then I finally get the whole story. Kate had stolen scalpels, bandaging, packing materials, and drugs, so performed surgery on herself. She had injected herself with local anesthetics and had taken a handful or barbiturates. She had cut herself open, starting just below her ribs on the left side. Decided she didn't like the angel, so packed the wound and tried again a bit lower and more horizontal. She had apparently nicked something that shouldn't be cut and started bleeding. She got dressed and drove herself to the hospital that was about 3 minutes away. She had lied to the hospital staff and cops when they arrived. The cops hauled out all the supplies she had used along with a ton of drugs she had stolen. Nothing that would get you high, just stuff that would enable her to do the surgery. When they left, they told me I would have to hire someone to clean up the blood. At that point, it was 5 a.m. and they left. I had been up since 6 a.m. in the morning before. I drove to the hospital to see her, cause I was still in panic mode. I was eventually allowed to see her, and she held my hand, but wouldn't say anything. They kicked me out around 7, so I went home and showered and came back. At 8 a.m. I was told she didn't want to see me, but I stayed anyway. About an hour later, I was told that they were committing her to a local mental hospital. No knowing what to do, I went into work. I was there about an hour before my nerves finally broke, and I told my boss what had happened, and he sent me home. I went to Walmart and picked up some heavy-duty gloves and a large plastic container and went home to do some cleanup. I was lucky, and almost everything was contained to her comforter. I gathered that up, her sheets, and her, let's call it stomach material in the box. For the record, I couldn't eat chicken for months. I took it to my parents' place to burn. Finally making it back home, I laid down on the couch to sleep around 1 p.m. At this point, I had been up for 31 hours, and 13 of that under stress. Just as I dozed off, I got a call from Kate. They were releasing her from the mental hospital and needed me to pick her up at 3. I wasn't happy, but I did it. As we were driving home, she told me that she had convinced the doctors she had a mental breakdown from body issues, no food, and too many diet pills, so they let her go, given that I had dinner with her that night. A large one at that. It was obvious she had lied to them. In the following days, Kate mostly stayed on the couch, since she had been fired from her job and didn't feel up to going anywhere. I finally kicked her out about 3 weeks later after she disappeared for 2 days. I didn't want to deal with it. She left her bed and owing me about $800 for back rent. I never talked to her again. I do still have a copy of the incident report. A few months ago, someone that had known us both asked me about her, and I decided to look her up. She didn't have a Facebook profile, but I could see where she was on her 3rd last name. I should have stopped at this point, but curiosity. The 3rd last name led me to http://paperdollspenpals.com, where I could see she was looking for a hookup while in prison. Her picture was attached to the ad, so I knew it was her. She was in prison for credit card fraud, identity theft, resisting arrest, and about 4 other non-minor charges I can't think of right now. TLDR, in less than 24 hours my roommate gutted herself, was questioned by the police, committed to mental hospital, and released. She was in prison several years later with a host of charges. This is probably pretty standard and doesn't get really exciting until the end, kind of. Used to live with a very, very large guy. I forget his real name because everyone called him Crumb for always having crumbs all over his shirt. Anyways, after losing a job and accepting a different job for less pay, I needed a roommate, so I moved in with a guy. First day I moved in, he tried raising the rent we agreed upon by $100. Then when I was surprised and said that's not what we agreed on, he muttered under his breath that this is a bad idea and he's going to regret it. He didn't have a job, but I was confused how he still has money and how he paid rent. I was dumbfounded, but for some reason didn't move out right there. Something I noticed while living there was that he never left the living room aside from answering the door for pizza. Otherwise, he was there at all hours playing D&D with people online. I introduced him to a girl hoping he'd move and hang out with her. Instead, he just chatted with her online. The place ended up getting cockroaches, and it was disgusting. Then the kicker is, he literally cracked the toilet by sitting on it. Not to mention how it was depressed into the ground. I had a girl over with me, and she couldn't stop laughing about the toilet. I really need a visual representation to describe how bad it was. When I moved in, the kitchen was disgusting, and he promised to clean it. He never did. So I did to be nice. It didn't take long for it to get disgusting again, and he never cleaned. He just lived off Pizza Hut. Eventually, I got sick of living in the shithole. Literally, I was deathly ill and couldn't leave my bed for a week. So I told him I was moving out. As I was moving out, there was a note on the door that I owed $4,000, which in retrospect never made sense, since I only lived there for maybe 5 months, in unpaid rent. I didn't think clearly, and got pissed off at him, demanding to know what he had been doing with my money. Later, after I calmed down, I saw the note was addressed to him, but he whited out his name and put mine. I called the apartment complex, only to find out they've been out of business for months. The entire time I lived there, there was noon for him to pay rent to. He was basically squatting. He was pocketing the money I was giving him. Thought they could clean the shower by leaving it running super hot with the door closed. All day. Maintenance had to come pry the door off its frame just to get it open. The wood had swelled up so much from all the moisture. Edit. I'm getting comments asking why my shower door was wooden. I should have clarified that I meant the door to the bathroom. The shower door was glass. Edit 2. Holy crap, this blew up. Never thought my top-rated comment of all time would be about showers, LOL. I'm answering as many comments as I can, but I cannot answer them all. But, since this got so popular, I figured I might as well tell a bit more of the story. My roommate had left the shower on and gone merrily off to work, but that was my day off. I didn't know anything was amiss until I realized I had been hearing the shower running for several hours. I knocked, but of course, there was no answer. I panicked and tried to open the door. As far as I knew at that point, it was locked. It sure wouldn't open, in any case, and I didn't know it was swollen shut. So naturally, I thought one of my roommates had locked themselves in there and, I dunno, died or something. I went completely hysterical. I called the housing office. They break down the door, and after that I was just confused until the roommate in question got home to explain. At that point, though, I was mostly just glad I hadn't found a body. But then we got the bill for the door they had to replace, and the roommate in question tried to weasel their way out of paying for it. They fully intended to make all four of us split the cost, and there was no way that was happening. They did eventually pay up, thank goodness. The end. Honestly, if my roommate did that, I'd move out that same day. What would you do in this situation?